She's never battled injuries in college. She's always been something who has been a very healthy player. And this year it has been quad injury, and then another quad injury, and then a groin injury, and now what seems to be another groin injury. Caitlin Clark seems to have re-injured her groin. I'm gonna go into some of the clips that are going viral right now. There are multiple moments in this game that were so egregiously called, or there was no calls by the referees. Even Caitlin Clark's brother tweeted, "This one is on the refereeing." Like, there are people in Caitlin Clark's family who are starting to call out the referees because of how bad they have been. Now,
the season for Caitlin Clark is finally gone, and everyone is in shock at how things transpired. The greatest star on the Fever says she won't be returning to the court in 2025, just weeks before the playoffs. The true question, though, is this only a lull in her ascent? Or might this injury ruin everything she has worked so hard to achieve? Stay with me, because there is much more to this decision's backstory than just terrible luck. For Clark, the Fever, and even the WNBA as a whole, it marks a sea change. I would want to ask you a tiny favor before we continue. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content. More than 98% of you see the videos without signing up. Although it doesn't cost you anything, it has a significant impact on us. Have you pressed the subscribe button? Fantastic. Many thanks. Let's return to the video now. It wasn't when she hobbled off the court or during a game. Caitlin Clark's own words, which were shared online, were the precise moment that people recognized her season was definitely over. The startling announcement that the Fever star would not be returning struck harder than any highlight play. Not this time of year. For weeks, fans had been anticipating her return to the stage. The hope was then lost in a matter of sentences. Her season had already felt like it was barely getting by up to that time. She had barely played 13 games, which seemed absurd for someone who was supposed to lead a playoff-chasing squad. Each of those games displayed glimpses of her abilities, but they also took place with everyone holding their breath as a backdrop.
so as you guys can see here, she is dribbling down, she plants her foot, she passes the ball to Kelsey Mitchell on the back door. And then when she is running back on the other end of the court, it seems like she's grabbing her groin area. It was honestly just so heartbreaking to see, because in that moment, she just looked so defeated. And Caitlin Clark is somebody, she hides it really well, and I don't know if hiding it or she handles it is probably the right thing to say. This play in the game was with under 1 minute left in the game against the Connecticut Sun. She has been on minutes restriction for the last few games, and I've always been a bit confused by that, because I did not understand why the Fever would bring her back if she was injured at all.
Pondering the endurance of her physique. She was at the heart of Indiana's playoff push, and their plans were constructed around her, but all of a sudden everything fell apart. Consider that. Your franchise star has a rookie season peak and has flashes of brilliance, but she never really reaches her full potential before the bottom falls out. Furthermore, this injury wasn't brand new or unexpected. The groin issue initially surfaced in July, which was when the problem began. The entire thing then devolved into a game of waiting. Reporters inquired about Clark's readiness every week. Everyone prepared for a potential comeback as fans poured their guesses over social media. It wasn't just her that was frustrated. It also affected the Fever. Although they had to appear upbeat during interviews, they must have known in their hearts that the likelihood of a return date was decreasing with each week that went by. You could see the crew clinging to hope, modifying their schedules, and attempting to get by without her. However, no one was stupid enough to believe that she could be readily replaced. People were particularly moved by her admission that she wasn't prepared, not only by the specifics of her injury. Those were powerful words. They described a mental struggle that she was unable to overcome this time, in addition to a physical setback.
She is fighting back tears, and she walks straight over to the bench. Now, when she goes over to the bench, she starts crying, and I've honestly never seen Caitlin Clark cry on the court except when she lost the national championship game. Now, they were winning by, I believe, 8 points at the time, so I guess the Sun could have came back, but every time the Indiana Fever plays the Connecticut Sun, it is a very, very physical game. I feel like Caitlin Clark, she is your star player. She's having an injury that is jumping. It's not one that is just staying in one area. It's jumping from quad to groin, and now to another groin.
She explained the extent of her grinding. Sweat was shed as they tried to persevere through unending rehabilitation, hours each day spent in the practice facilities, and more. Her body still didn't react despite all of that effort. It was almost as if you could see her colliding with the wall. That was the point at which willpower was insufficient. Consider that. A player who acknowledged she couldn't continue even after doing everything, and who built her entire name on perseverance and work ethic. Fans experienced grief at that point, as it wasn't her sloth that was preventing her from succeeding. There was no lack of dedication. She was simply shut down by her body before the season set in. As the fever was looming over the final 3 games, this news broke. Those games were more than merely scheduled numbers. Their attempt to wriggle their way into playoff relevancy was their last chance. And suddenly the plan's focal point was missing. When her update was made public, you could practically see the season's fire going out. There was a sharp decline in expectations. The postseason picture became hazy without Clark, and Indiana was left essentially counting down the days rather than battling for them. The response quickly grew outside the locker room. Devastated, some followers posted about how heartbroken they were not able to witness the rookie complete the task she began.
But this was honestly, I'm not going to share this whole clip because I don't know how much she wants the video of her basically crying on the court to be circulated around. She handles the pressure. She handles all of the media spotlight, the attention, the expectations of how she performs on the court, the expectations of the ratings for her games.
Others questioned right away if she had been thrust into too much attention too soon and asked to bear a burden that even veterans couldn't handle. Online arguments broke out as detractors pointed to her injuries as evidence that she had been overhyped, while supporters retaliated by stating, "This is just part of an athlete's journey." It's possible that the split response hurt just as much as the actual injury. However, the crucial moment ultimately had little to do with her stature or her crotch. It has to do with confidence. It's crucial for a player like Clark to have faith in her body's reaction. And long before the formal words were printed, the season was over once that belief was disproved. That type of loss cannot be quantified by any number. The focus changed after that collapse was confirmed. The storm outside the court was just getting started, even though the season was gone. Furthermore, the response to her collapse was considerably more vicious. There is more to Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury than meets the eye. This is the first actual test to see if her reputation will be based on resiliency or exaggeration. Every beginner has obstacles, but for Sarah, those obstacles took the shape of her body refusing. The narrative shifts at that point. In the midst of recovering and demonstrating your ability to bounce back stronger, the biggest plays occasionally occur without a buzzer. So, I'm curious about your thoughts. Does this setback heighten the anticipation for her eventual comeback? Or does this mark the beginning of a more difficult reality?